Welcome to the Sleepy Myths. I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're wrapped in soft blankets, staring at the ceiling in a quiet room, or simply letting your thoughts drift like moonlight on water, this space is yours. Tonight, we're floating into something vast and mysterious, a silent force that stretches the fabric of space itself. This video is about dark energy, what it might be, how it moves invisibly through the cosmos, and why it's quietly tearing galaxies away from each other, faster and faster. But don't worry, there's no rush here, no fast facts or loud theories, just a gentle unraveling of the universe's softest secrets. Now, I do hope this doesn't accidentally keep you awake, but if it does, I hope it leaves you with a thought or two that glows gently in your mind like a distant star. Before we drift into the void together, I'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight? Are you winding down in a mountain town in Ethiopia, listening under the stars in New Mexico, or maybe drifting off in a quiet room in Vietnam? Let me know in the comments. It's always comforting to see the sleepy constellation of listeners forming all over the world. And if you find peace in this blend of science and stillness, please consider liking or subscribing. It helps this little channel float peacefully through the vast algorithmic sea. Now, let's begin. You lie still beneath a ceiling of stars. The night is quiet, but the sky is not. Above you, galaxies spin and drift. Yet none of it feels like motion. You are wrapped in stillness. But if you could hear the heartbeat of the universe, it would be a slow exhale, a spreading silence, a stretch that never ends. Space, the place that holds all things, is not empty. It has shape, it has motion, it has a quiet breath. Every second, it grows, not loudly, not quickly, but steadily. The galaxies are not flying through space like birds across the sky. Instead, it is the space between them that grows. Like ink spreading in water, the cosmos dilutes itself. You can't feel it in your hands, or hear it in your ears, but your entire world floats on this expanding tide. Imagine drawing dots on a balloon and then blowing it up slowly. The dots move apart, not because they travel, but because the surface itself stretches. This is how your universe expands. For most of human history, we thought the cosmos was fixed, eternal and still. The stars were lights nailed to a dark shell, and Earth stood at the center, unmoving. But now we know the truth. Space itself grows wider, and time moves forward within it. It began with a whisper called the Big Bang, not a bang in space, but the birth of space itself. In its first moment, the universe was smaller than a grain of sand. Then, like a breath held for too long, it released. And from that first breath came distance, direction, time. And yet, this growth has not stopped. Billions of years later, the cosmos still expands. The galaxies once close, now drift beyond reach. You live inside this breath, this silent swelling. You are part of its rhythm. But the strange thing is, nothing seems to slow it down. Gravity should tug at the stars and pull everything back together. Mass attracts mass. The universe, filled with matter and light, should contract again one day, shouldn't it? That was once the expectation, but it doesn't. Instead, the breath speeds up. It's as if something unseen is pushing it all outward, a pressure that works not on things, but on the fabric between things. This isn't a wind. It isn't a force you can measure with your body, and yet, it moves everything. You can imagine it this way. Place two paper boats on a lake. If the water between them slowly rises, the boats float farther apart, not because they paddle away, but because the surface swells. Space acts like that water, stretching between the galaxies. But unlike water, it has no source, no edge, no container, and you are not outside this lake. You are in it. Your body, your room, your planet, your galaxy, all suspended in the rising tide. It does not tear atoms apart or break the ground beneath your feet, but it does pull the distant stars farther from your view. The more we watch the universe, the more we notice its quiet urgency, Distant galaxies slip beyond our reach, their light stretched into longer, redder waves. They recede like lanterns, carried away in the dark. You feel none of this in your breath, but it is happening. It has always been happening. What then is the nature of this breath? What fills the lungs of space and gives it the strength to grow? Physicists search for the answer, but the name they give it, dark energy, is only a placeholder, a soft whisper in the absence of understanding. It does not mean we have found the thing. It means we have seen its shadow. For now, all we know is that the universe expands faster than it should, and that something is helping it do so, something not made of matter, not made of light, a presence without shape, yet full of influence, a gentle push on all that exists. And this presence is not only out there, among the galaxies, it is here, in this room, inside the space between the atoms in your body, inside the quiet pause between your thoughts. Dark energy may live in the emptiness itself. It may be the property of space, the way smoothness is the nature of calm water, or it may come from something deeper still, some field, some ripple, some essence we cannot yet name. But tonight, you don't need to solve it. Tonight you are simply floating. You are lying still on the shore of a growing ocean, and the waves pass beneath you gently. You are small, yes, but never still. You are part of this breath, and as the universe expands, so too does your understanding. Slowly, softly, a question opens in your mind. If space stretches, does light stretch with it? Does the color of a star change as the sky expands around it? As galaxies move farther away, does their glow still reach you, or do they whisper a deeper truth, that even light grows tired in an expanding world? Light has always been your guide, from the sun on your skin to the stars overhead. It tells you where you are and what surrounds you. It moves fast, so fast, it feels instant. But light is not infinite in speed, nor immune to change. It travels across time, and time leaves fingerprints on it. When you gaze at the stars, you are not seeing the present. You are looking into a kind of memory. Each beam of light began its journey long before it met your eyes. Some of the stars you see may no longer exist. Their final breath may have come while that light was still on its way to you. This is not a trick. It is a gift. The sky is a map of old stories, sent by messengers who traveled lifetimes to reach you. But the farther the star, the longer the journey, and as space itself expands, that journey becomes stretched. The light slows, not in speed, but in energy. Its waves lengthen, its color fades. This is called redshift. You can think of light as a ripple, like a wave in water. It has peaks and troughs. These ripples carry energy, and that energy shows up as color. Blue light has shorter, tighter waves, more energy. Red light has longer waves, less energy. Now imagine throwing a stone into a calm pond. If the pond grows wider while the ripples travel, the waves stretch, their energy thins. This is what happens to light in an expanding universe. The space through which it travels is growing, so its waves grow longer, its energy fades, and its color reddens. A distant galaxy, once glowing white or blue, now looks red, not because it changed, but because its light had to cross a breathing universe to find you. The universe does not hold still for light, and light cannot anchor itself. It is carried by space itself, and if space stretches, so must the light. The farther a galaxy is, the redder it looks. Not just faint, but shifted, changed. You could say the light has grown tired, but not in weakness. It has aged. It has told its story over great distances. There's beauty in this soft fading, a kind of cosmic nostalgia. You live in the afterglow of ancient light. The color you see is time speaking in waves. Even the most ancient light, the microwave whisper of the Big Bang, is stretched so far that it no longer glows. It hums. It fills the sky not with brightness but with warmth. Faint, even, but it's there, all around you. a memory too old for eyes, but not too old for instruments. That light, the oldest in the universe, wraps around your planet. It bathes you in silence. A message from a time when atoms were still learning how to be. And so, in this expanding cosmos, light becomes a clock. You can read the age of a galaxy by how red its light becomes. You can measure the shape of space by watching how waves bend. You can feel the movement of everything not through noise, but through color. In a way, color is distance. Color is age. Color is motion. But the cosmos is not so easily rid. Out here, something moves the galaxies apart, and no one can touch it, trace it, or hold it still. You lie under the sky, your breath calm, your heart slow, while above, entire clusters of galaxies drift apart, like specks in still water, quiet, relentless, unstoppable. For centuries, it was thought that gravity would hold it all together, that one day, the expansion that began with the Big Bang would slow, maybe stop, maybe even reverse. Galaxies would come back like rain clouds rolling home, a cosmic inhale after a long exhale. But that's not what the stars are doing. Instead, astronomers notice something strange. Light from distant supernovae, exploding stars so bright they act as cosmic beacons, was dimmer than expected. Not just far, but farther. Not just old, but older. The galaxies housing them weren't just coasting outward, they were accelerating, moving faster with time, as if being pushed. Something unseen was giving them energy, not in the form of flame or pressure or particle, but through the very structure of space. Imagine setting two paper boats on a still lake. You give them a gentle push, and they drift apart. But then imagine the water beneath them begins to stretch, carrying them faster, farther, not from their effort, but from the lake's expansion. No paddle, no wind, just distance increasing. Now imagine that lake growing faster the longer you watch. This is what astronomers saw, and it didn't make sense. Gravity pulls, mass attracts. So what was pushing? They called it dark energy, not because it was made of shadow, or malevolent, or known, but because it was not visible, not understood, not explainable by any known force. A placeholder, a mystery, a whisper with weight. And yet, whatever it is, it now makes up most of your universe. Everything you see, stars, planets, dust, your own body, makes up only about 5% of the total. Dark matter, another mystery, takes up about 27%. But the rest, almost 70%, that's dark energy, a silent driver behind the universe's expansion. You don't feel it in your bones, but it touches everything. It doesn't push like wind or shove like a tide. It stretches calmly. It's not a thing, not an object, but a property, a tendency, a quiet rule built into the fabric of space itself. You might picture it like a quiet pressure, not like air in your lungs, but like the stretching of dough rising on its own. Left alone, it grows, not from effort, but from something inside the fabric, not explosive, just inevitable. And dark energy doesn't act locally. It doesn't bend your fingers or lift the ocean. Its reach is only noticeable across massive scales, between galaxies, across billions of light years. That's why you don't notice it. You're made of atoms held tightly together. Your Earth is bound by gravity. Your galaxy spins in its own nest of mass and motion. But between galaxies, where gravity is weak and space is open, dark energy stretches the emptiness, like taffy pulled by invisible hands. So how does it work? No one knows for certain. Some believe it's the cosmological constant, a term Einstein once added to his equations to keep the universe still. When he learned the universe was expanding, he regretted it. But now it's back, not to stop expansion, but to explain why it grows faster. A constant energy woven into the void. Others imagine something more dynamic, a field that shifts and evolves. They call it quintessence, echoing the ancient idea of a fifth element, something beyond earth, water, air, and fire, a subtle, elusive essence that fills all things. Some theories imagine dark energy as vacuum energy, the idea that even in perfect emptiness, space holds potential. Tiny particles flicker into existence and vanish, their brief lives hinting that nothingness is never truly empty. Each idea is beautiful, each is incomplete. But you don't need equations to feel the wonder. You are lying on a bed carved from the earth, but you are riding a universe that's growing beneath you. The galaxies move not because they are told to, but because they must, because the space around them won't stop growing, and the deeper mystery, the expansion, is accelerating. That means that the more space there is, the more dark energy there is, and the more dark energy, the faster the growth. A quiet feedback loop, a slow runaway. The future then might be lonely. Galaxies someday may fade from view. The sky may dim as light from distant stars red shifts beyond detection. The universe, once close and warm, may stretch itself into isolation. But that future is not yet. For now you float in the middle of the breath in the rising tide. You can still see the stars. You can still feel their stories reaching you. You may not feel dark energy in your hand, but you can sense it in the widening space between moments, in the way time feels like it's pulling you forward, gently, endlessly. You are part of this mystery, not just watching it, riding it. The galaxies do not know where they go, but they go, and in that motion there is a strange kind of peace, a cosmic permission to drift. And now, as you drift in thought, another question takes shape. If this energy pushes space itself, could it one day pull everything so far apart that light no longer finds its way? Could this silent force end in silence? For a long time, the sky made sense, or at least we thought it did. The universe had expanded since the beginning. Fine, but gravity, the great gatherer, should slow it down. That much was certain. It was as if you had tossed a ball into the sky. Even if it soared for a while, it would fall eventually. So too the galaxies. They should be coasting upward now, but one day they'd turn back. That was the expectation. Quiet, predictable, and then came the surprise. It began with a flicker, a few fading lights. The kind that arrive at the end of a star's life, supernova. These are not gentle endings, but dramatic ones. A star collapsing into itself, then erupting outward in light brighter than an entire galaxy. And because they're so bright, supernova are used like cosmic lighthouses. If you know how luminous one truly is, and you see how dim it appears from Earth, you can measure distance. It's like seeing a lantern across a valley. You know how far away it is by how faint the glow. So astronomers watched these distant explosions. They measured them, calculated how fast the universe had expanded in the past and how fast it was expanding now. And what they found shook the silence. The supernova were too dim, not just distant, but farther than expected. The universe wasn't slowing down. It was speeding up. Imagine tossing a ball skyward and watching it rise faster and faster, beyond reach, without end. Something was not just letting the galaxies drift. It was pushing them harder over time. That push didn't match any known force. Not gravity, not radiation, not matter. A quiet force woven into the empty spaces was making everything accelerate, and no one had seen it coming. This wasn't a moment of thunder. There were no explosions or screams, just data, just numbers on screens. But those numbers whispered a secret that rewrote the way we saw the universe. The expansion of space was not gentle and slowing, it was growing bolder, and in that moment, a door opened, not just to a new idea, but to a new kind of not knowing. It wasn't just that our models were wrong, it was that the thing driving most of the universe was invisible. That's when dark energy got its name. A mystery that wasn't darkness in color, but in clarity. A placeholder, a symbol of the unknown. But sometimes the unknown is a gift. That moment, the moment astronomers noticed something was off, reminded us that the universe is not ours to contain. It unfolds on its own terms. There is humility in that, a sense that we are students, not owners, of the cosmos. You can almost feel the pause they must have felt, sitting in observatories late at night, rechecking equations, realizing that something enormous had been missed all along. It's like stepping into a familiar room and noticing, after years, that one wall slowly breathes. The truth had been right in front of us, but the instruments had only just become sharp enough to hear it. And now, with ears finely tuned, we hear it everywhere. The expansion is not slowing, it is accelerating. The breath of the universe is not a sigh, but a growing wind. Still, no one can say exactly what this energy is, but we know what it's doing. And that's what matters first. Even now, teams around the world launch satellites, scan galaxies, chart redshifts, all to study what this force is. Their work is quiet, patient, often done under cold skies, surrounded by silence. But they are listening. Listening for the whisper that revealed itself in that first moment of confusion. That moment changed cosmology. It was as if the floor beneath us gently tilted, and we saw the horizon differently, not because we moved, but because the universe showed its deeper shape. And you, now, lying under the same stars, can feel the echo of that discovery. You are part of a species that noticed the breath of space speeding up, that watched ancient light flicker and realized the cosmos was not obeying old rules, that dared to name the unknown, even when it was made of silence. The universe did not warn us. It did not shout. It simply continued, as it always had. But we began to hear it more clearly. And now, you hear it too. You know the galaxies are not only drifting, they are accelerating. The stars are not only old, they are being stretched away from you. And that leaves a quiet ache, a sense of something slipping out of reach. You wonder what else lies hidden in the silence. If one equation held a ghost, might others? Long before the redshifted whispers and supernova surprises, before the word dark energy ever passed through human lips, one man tried to hold the universe still with a single symbol. It was 1917. The stars to most were fixed, the cosmos eternal, unchanging. The night sky looked quiet, and so the mathematics had to match that silence. Einstein, deep in thought, was shaping his theory of general relativity, a theory not just of gravity, but of how space and time bend and curve around mass. He believed the universe was static, that it neither expanded nor contracted, that its shape was perfectly balanced. But his equations didn't agree. They suggested something uncomfortable, that space left to itself would curve, move, shift, that the universe might not be still at all. And so, to match the stillness people believed in, Einstein adjusted the formula. He introduced a term, the cosmological constant, a number, a kind of pressure, built not from matter or energy, but woven into space itself, its purpose, to hold the universe steady, to keep it from collapsing under its own weight, or expanding uncontrollably, a ghost placed in the machinery of the cosmos, not for beauty, not for clarity, but for balance, and for a time, that was enough. But the universe didn't obey the stillness. Years later, Edwin Hubble would reveal that galaxies are drifting apart, that space is expanding, that the sky is not frozen, but breathing outward. Einstein, upon hearing this, abandoned the constant. He called it his größte Iserlei, his greatest blunder. That added term, born of a false assumption, now seemed unnecessary, perhaps even foolish. The constant was forgotten, until decades later, the light of distant supernovae flickered too faintly, the redshifts whispered too loudly. The expansion was not just real, it was accelerating. And suddenly, the ghost returned, the cosmological constant fit, not to hold the universe still, but to explain why it was flying apart faster than ever before. Einstein's mistake was not in the math, it was in the reason. He had tried to stop the universe from moving, but the universe was never still. Now, the constant wears a new face. Some still call it lambda, Einstein's original name for it. Others simply fold it into the mystery of dark energy. Either way, it speaks again. You can think of it as a pressure, soft and invisible, built into the empty parts of space, a kind of energy that doesn't come from anything, only from being, unlike matter, which gathers, or radiation, which fades. The cosmological constant doesn't dilute as the universe grows. Its strength stays the same per volume of space. So the more space there is, the more of this pressure exists, and the faster expansion becomes, like a spring that stretches itself the more it's pulled. It is not momentum, it is not inertia, it is built-in breath. You lie in the present, but the equation reaches through time. It is the same everywhere, at every moment, a quiet hum in the structure of the universe, a term whose meaning we still don't fully grasp, but whose presence keeps showing up where we least expect it. And in this, there is beauty, a kind of reverent awe. Mathematics does not create the cosmos, it reflects it, it listens, tries to describe, to follow, and sometimes, a term written in ink becomes a doorway into the unknown. You might imagine Einstein's hand, scribbling the constant into the margins, a small gesture, a fix, a human attempt to tame the vast. He thought he was balancing numbers, but what he may have done was name the first clue. The cosmos did not need correction, it needed curiosity, and now, that curiosity grows. Observatories scan deeper into space. Satellites trace the echoes of the Big Bang. The cosmic microwave background, a faint fog left over from the universe's youth, carries fingerprints of this constant, this pressure, this ghost. And what do we know for sure? Not much. Only that the math works better with it than without it. Only that it explains the expansion. Only that it shows up again and again. Is it truly constant? Is it truly simple? We don't know. It may be part of a field we haven't seen, a rolling sea of energy that shifts in strength over time. Or maybe it is tied to the vacuum itself, to the restless nothingness that fills every corner of space. Some believe it is the energy of the vacuum, a base level of motion, even in emptiness, tiny particle pairs, flaring in and out of existence, bubbling like foam in the quietest sea. If so, then space is never still, not just expanding but trembling softly with possibility. You, lying here, are surrounded by that vacuum. Your body, your breath, your thoughts, all of it floats in that field, and the constant, the ghost, might be its signature. It doesn't pull on you, it doesn't sing in your ear, but it shapes the story you live inside. The galaxies feel it, the light feels it, time bends with it, and through it all, we search not just for numbers, but for meaning. How could something so small in the math hold such weight in the world? How could a single symbol contain the secret of the sky's acceleration? Einstein may have doubted the term, but the universe did not. The ghost stayed, and now you feel its presence, not as fear, but as wonder, not as threat, but as possibility. If something so quiet can shape the stars, what else might be hidden in the blank spaces? What other ghosts still wait in the margins? What else might we find in the emptiness itself? You drift now beyond the stars you once knew, past the gentle glow of your home galaxy, into a space where the dark grows even quieter. Galaxies appear like scattered lanterns in the night, suspended in silence, unanchored but not alone. Each one spins, pulsing slowly with the light of 100 billion suns, yet between them lies something stranger than darkness, a shape without form, a structure without substance. You cannot see the threads at first. You only notice the pattern, how galaxies tend to gather in loose clusters, how they seem to line up as if obeying a silent architecture. It's as if some ancient map was drawn across the cosmos, and each glowing island follows its path. This web, this hidden net that connects all things, is called the cosmic filament, the great scaffolding of the universe. Made of dark matter and guided by dark energy, it stretches across billions of light years. It is not a thing you can touch or see with your eyes, but its gravity pulls galaxies into place. It whispers to light itself. Imagine it as a spider's web, so vast it could cradle everything: stars, time, thought. The galaxies are the dewdrops, resting where the strands cross, glowing where the lines converge. The spaces between are not empty. They are shaped by this net, pushed and pulled by forces that have no face but leave fingerprints in the dust of galaxies. This is how the universe organizes itself, not in neat rows or perfect circles, but in flowing veins and curling branches. Clusters merge like rain in a river, drawn to one another by gravity's tireless hands. Superclusters form, vast and slow, like drifting continents. But then comes the quiet, great voids where almost nothing lives, where dark energy expands the space so fast that matter cannot take hold. You float at the edge of one such void now. It stretches like an ocean of nothing, a cavern carved not by erosion but by the universe itself growing too quickly. Dark energy pushes from all sides. In these regions, galaxies thin out like stars before dawn, but even here the web still exists, faint, tenuous, trembling. And you begin to feel how space is not empty. It is shaped by what cannot be seen. You are wrapped in fields, in curves, in slow invisible tides. Time bends differently here, stretched out like thread. You could drift for millions of years and still feel the echo of another galaxy's pull. At the intersections of this web, galaxies bloom like coral in a deep sea. They are nourished by the gravity of the filaments, fed by streams of hydrogen and dark matter. They do not grow randomly, they follow the threads. They remember the patterns laid down in the earliest moments after the Big Bang. You see now that nothing is truly separate, even across impossible distances. Even when light takes billions of years to reach another, there is connection. Not physical perhaps, not touch or voice, but a gravitational whisper, a pull, a presence. And you are part of this. Your own atoms once belonged to stars shaped by this cosmic web, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones. These were forged in the heart of galaxies connected by invisible bridges. The threads that bound those galaxies together also brought their ashes to you. You are not outside the structure, you are woven into it. Every moment of stillness you feel here, every breath-like drift, is a reminder that emptiness itself can be a form of belonging, that the great silence is not loneliness, it is potential, space left open so something new can form. You begin to notice that even time behaves differently in these filaments. Where gravity is strong, time slows. Where dark energy dominates, time races ahead. You imagine two clocks, side by side, one near a galaxy cluster, one in a void, and you see them fall out of sync. Space stretches, time curves. You drift along one of these threads now, pulled gently by forces you cannot name, through a current of dark matter, an ancient hydrogen. The galaxies around you shimmer more brightly, as if recognizing the path. And you begin to feel how space is not empty. It is shaped by what cannot be seen. You are wrapped in fields, in curves, in slow invisible tides. Time bends differently here, stretched out like thread. You could drift for millions of years and still feel the echo of another galaxy's pull. At the intersections of this web, galaxies bloom like coral in a deep sea. They are nourished by the gravity of the filaments, fed by streams of hydrogen and dark matter. They do not grow randomly, they follow the threads. They remember the patterns laid down in the earliest moments after the Big Bang. You see now that nothing is truly separate, even across impossible distances. Even when light takes billions of years to reach another, there is connection. Not physical perhaps, not touch or voice, but a gravitational whisper, a pull, a presence. And you are part of this. Your own atoms once belonged to stars shaped by this cosmic web, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones. These were forged in the heart of galaxies connected by invisible bridges. The threads that bound those galaxies together also brought their ashes to you. You are not outside the structure, you are woven into it. Every moment of stillness you feel here, every breath-like drift, is a reminder that emptiness itself can be a form of belonging, that the great silence is not loneliness, it is potential, space left open so something new can form. You begin to notice that even time behaves differently in these filaments. Where gravity is strong, time slows. Where dark energy dominates, time races ahead. You imagine two clocks, side by side, one near a galaxy cluster, one in a void, and you see them fall out of sync. Space stretches, time curves. You drift along one of these threads now, pulled gently by forces you cannot name, through a current of dark matter, an ancient hydrogen. The galaxies around you shimmer more brightly, as if recognizing the path. You wonder if these filaments remember their origins, the first ripple after the universe was born, the first separation of light and matter. They are ancient bones of a young universe. They hold its memory, and in some quiet way, they are still growing. Slowly, slowly, the filaments stretch. Dark energy pushes, but gravity resists. It is a long dance, a slow argument between expansion and connection. You feel that argument in your own body, the desire to move outward, to explore, to expand, and the deeper wish to remain part of something, to stay connected, to belong. The universe does both. It expands into mystery, and yet it clings to shape. And perhaps that is what keeps the galaxies glowing, not just the fire of fusion, but the quiet knowledge that they are not adrift, that even at the edge of a void, they are held, that in the silence between, there is design. You rest now at the meeting point of two filaments. Below you, a galaxy spirals like a frozen storm. Above, another cluster begins to form, drawn by gravity across hundreds of millions of years. You cannot see them touch, but you feel the way their motions rhyme. This is the universe at its most delicate, not exploding, not collapsing, just breathing in great distances, stretching, weaving, waiting. A loom made of time and silence. And even as dark energy tugs, even as the threads thin, something holds. The web is not yet undone. It stretches, but it sings. And now you wonder, if this is the architecture of the cosmos, if galaxies are arranged by unseen filaments and pulled together by invisible forces, what holds the structures within your own mind? What filaments connect memory, thought and identity across the dark spaces of your inner world? You float through the invisible fabric of space, no longer merely a passenger, but a listener, attuned to the faint creaks and folds of the cosmos. You can almost feel the tension beneath the stars, like the surface of a balloon slowly stretching under breath it cannot see. Imagine space not as a flat, empty sheet, but as a living terrain, flexible, dynamic, quietly curving beneath the weight of every galaxy. This is not metaphor alone. In the language of physics, space is geometry, and geometry is destiny. You have heard of gravity bending light, but it also bends time, it curves pathways, it shapes everything. And now you understand, the shape of space tells matter how to move, and matter tells space how to curve. This elegant loop is the heartbeat of Einstein's universe. Yet dark energy disrupts this rhythm. Instead of pulling things together, as gravity does, dark energy pushes the universe outward. But it's not just pulling galaxies away from each other, it's reshaping the terrain between them. Like an unseen hand slowly tugging at a spider's web, it changes not only the distance between points, but the very rules by which distance is measured. What does it mean then, for space to have shape? It means that straight lines may no longer be straight, that parallel paths may eventually cross or diverge forever, that triangles may add up to more than 180 degrees or less. In your world, shape is rigid, familiar, circles, squares, edges. But in the cosmos, shape breathes, it responds, it stretches. The universe can be closed, like the surface of a sphere, finite yet unbounded, where you could travel forever and return to where you began. Or it can be open, like a saddle, curving endlessly outward, its destiny ever expanding, never circling back. Or it can be flat, perfectly balanced between these fates, where the geometry we know on Earth continues to hold, even in the most distant places. But dark energy tilts this balance, like a wind pressing from all directions. It urges the universe toward openness, accelerating its expansion so quickly that galaxies once near will vanish from view forever. And with this stretch, the geometry begins to change, not because space is broken, but because it listens. You picture the universe as a great sleeping creature, exhaling in slow, infinite breath. Its skin stretches, reshapes, but never tears. The galaxies upon it shift like tiny boats on an ocean that keeps rising beneath them, caught not in motion, but in transformation. The shape of the cosmos becomes a map of its destiny. If the universe is flat, dark energy's push might continue endlessly, a cold expansion without end. If it's open, that push may turn into a rush, a runaway stretch towards silence. And if somehow space is closed, that same push could reverse, curling the cosmos back in upon itself one day. Though the signs now say otherwise, still the future is not yet printed. And in that uncertainty lies your wonder. You close your eyes and feel the soft pull of geometry beneath your thoughts. You see galaxies spiraling like petals across curved corridors of space. You feel the invisible framework holding them together or letting them drift. The architecture of everything is not built of bricks and mortar, but of curvature and expansion. The structure is motion itself. There is something beautiful in knowing that your very body lives inside this shape, that the particles making your heart and breath obey these curves, ride these contours, dance by the same silent rules. Even your thoughts stretch with this space, even your memories, even this dream, and so you lie back, floating in the realization that space is not empty, it is shaped, and shaping still. And that dark energy may not be just a force, but a sculptor, tracing slow, invisible lines across a canvas too vast to hold all at once. What is it carving? Where do these lines lead? You are not yet ready to answer, but you are ready to wonder. And just as your thoughts begin to quiet, like waves returning to the shore, another question begins to rise, softly, like a tide beneath sleep. If space itself is being reshaped, what happens to time? Time was once a straight road for you, a steady beat from morning to night, from birth to breath to rest. You lived it by the sun, by calendars, by footsteps counted in days. But now, as you drift through the outer dark of space, you feel something new. Time isn't fixed. It stretches, it bends, it moves. Imagine this. You are holding a rubber band gently between your fingers. You pull on both ends, not too quickly, and watch as it lengthens. Now imagine this rubber band is time. As dark energy pushes space wider, it's as if the same pressure gently tugs on time, stretching it thinner, lengthening the moments between cosmic beats. And just like that, your seconds are not the same. Einstein once told the world that time is not separate from space. It is space-time, a single fabric, a unified field. If dark energy can stretch one, it must stretch the other. It's not simply that galaxies move away from each other. It's that the rhythm between them changes too. Time becomes relative, not just to gravity, but to expansion. In the early universe, time ticked quickly. Everything was close, compressed, hot, and fast. The beat of creation was a staccato, a rhythm of rapid light and furious growth. But as the universe cooled and dark energy emerged, the tempo changed, slower, softer, like a lullaby unraveling. And now time flows differently, in distant corners of the cosmos. A clock in a deep gravitational well ticks more slowly than one far from mass. But what if your clock is not near any object? What if it floats in expanding space, like a buoy on an ever-widening sea? Then time too begins to drift, not pulled by weight, but stretched by emptiness. You close your eyes and feel it. Your heartbeat, regular and known, feels suspended. Not slowed, not sped, but untethered, like it's moving through syrup, or mist, or light that doesn't care for walls. You are no longer walking across time, you are sinking into it. The universe has aged not just in size, but in tempo. Billions of years ago, light crossed galaxies in less time than it does now, not because light has changed, but because the space it travels through has. The road itself has lengthened, and so the past becomes unreachable, not in memory, but in structure. You think of a song playing across a canyon. At first it's loud and bright, but as the air between you and the source thickens and lengthens, the song slows, distorts, fades, not because it ends, but because its path becomes too vast. That is time now, music echoing in a widening room. And what about you? You wonder how this affects the little clock inside your cells, the circadian rhythm that guides your sleep, your hunger, your healing. Are you too being rewritten by this expansion? Could it be that your perception of time is secretly tethered to a cosmic metronome, ticking slower with each passing eon? You drift through this thought like mist. The stars too are clocks. Pulsars beat like cosmic hearts. Quasars blink across billions of years, but even they fall silent eventually, not because they run out, but because they fade from reach. Their light, their time, lost to a universe that moves too quickly between moments. It is strange to think that time itself might have a future, that just as there was a time before stars, there might be a time after time, a moment when expansion becomes so vast, so accelerated, that clocks cease to function at all. No movement, no change, no aging, only cold silence, stretched infinitely thin. This is not to fear, this is to wonder, because time is not ending, it is evolving, just as you have, just as space has. The present moment becomes more precious, not because it is fleeting, but because it is alive, it breathes with the universe. You lie in the soft current of this realization, that even in your dreams time is not constant, that it loops, sways, shifts, slows, that the shape of the cosmos shapes the beat of your life, that your thoughts, even now, are being sung by the same dark energy that carves galaxies and cradles stars. Time is not slipping away from you. It is carrying you forward, and as you sink deeper into sleep, you wonder not about what comes next, but what it means for a universe to grow older, not just in distance, but in tempo. And just before the night fully takes you, a final question floats across your mind like a leaf in a river. If space and time are being reshaped by dark energy, what will the end of everything feel like? You are drifting now in the stillness between stars, where the pull of gravity once stitched galaxies together like threads in a great cosmic loom. You remember how it held the dust close, how it gathered light into spirals and nurtured suns in the cradle of collapsing clouds. Gravity was your first lesson in belonging, how things fall inward, how orbits form, how planets settle into the arms of stars like children resting in their mother's lap. But now, in this quiet moment, something feels different. You sense that gravity is no longer winning. The pull that once gathered all things is being challenged, not by matter, not by mass, but by something far more elusive. You feel it all around you, the faint pressure of absence, the expansion of space itself. It's as if the universe is exhaling, slowly, continuously, despite gravity's steady call to return. This is the paradox you now inhabit. Gravity, the force of closeness, the sculptor of galaxies, is being outpaced by the very emptiness it once governed, and you feel it in your bones, as if your own cells are expanding with the same silent urgency, stretched between what holds you together and what draws you apart. You float in the memory of the early universe, where gravity reigned supreme. You see the primordial web, filaments of matter strung across the darkness, each knot a galaxy cluster, drawn together by invisible cords. And you see the turning point, billions of years ago, when the expansion, once slowing, began to speed up again, as though something unseen had tapped the accelerator of creation, pulling the fabric outward, faster and faster. Dark energy, you whisper. The name still feels strange, like a placeholder for a truth no one fully understands, but you know its presence not by what it is, but by what it does. It stretches the space between galaxies. It overwhelms the binding force of gravity. It does not push things like wind against your skin. It grows the very road between your feet and your destination, making the journey longer even as you walk. And gravity, you still feel it clinging tightly to stars, to planets, to your own weight. But its reach fades. Beyond a certain scale, the pull weakens, and dark energy takes over. It is like watching a dance where one partner lets go, and the other continues moving alone. You wonder what this means for the future. You picture galaxies sliding apart, the sky growing darker, not because light dies, but because distance swallows it, a future where each galaxy becomes an island, isolated in the sea of accelerating space, where the night sky no longer holds the shimmer of countless neighbors, but only the dim glow of one's own galaxy, adrift, forgotten. And you feel something tender in that thought. Not fear, not sadness, but a soft ache, like remembering the warmth of a hand you no longer hold. The universe is not breaking apart in violence. It is gently drifting away from itself, quietly, inevitably, like fog thinning at dawn. Still, gravity remains your old companion. It still binds stars to planets, holds moons in orbit, shapes your own body. Without it you could not stand, breathe, or even dream. It is the intimacy of forces, the architecture of closeness, and though its reach weakens with distance, it never disappears. You begin to understand that this is not a war between gravity and dark energy. It is a rebalancing, a shift in the scale of influence. Gravity governs the near and the small, the homes, the bodies, the galaxies. Dark energy governs the far and the vast, the spaces between homes, the silence between notes. It's strange how the greatest influence in the universe comes from what appears to be nothing. Dark energy does not clump, does not shine, does not make atoms or planets. It does not gather, it spreads. Yet in its spreading, it dictates the future of everything that does, and you wonder, how can emptiness be so full of power? You float in this question, gently rocked by its paradox. Maybe it is not emptiness at all, but a field, a presence that saturates space itself. Maybe it is the breath of the cosmos, invisible and continuous, expanding not into anything, but expanding everything itself. You imagine space as fabric, but more than that, as a living skin. When gravity pulls, it folds that skin inward. When dark energy acts, it stretches the skin outward. Both are sculptors, one of form, the other of distance. Together, they compose the evolving shape of reality. Your body, your breath, your thoughts, they all arise in the spaces between atoms, between stars. You are made of things pulled together by gravity, living inside a universe, being pulled apart by something more mysterious. And yet here you are, intact, thinking, wondering, the balance between what draws in and what pushes out. It exists in you too, the desire for closeness and the longing for freedom, the weight of memory and the urge to grow, the stillness of gravity and the movement of expansion. You are a galaxy in miniature, shaped by both, and as you feel the stretching silence of space, you also feel the stillness within, the center of gravity, in your chest, anchoring you to the present. You wonder if perhaps, one day, gravity will fade entirely in the face of dark energy. If stars will die, galaxies will drift beyond one another's reach, and all will become cold, dim, and alone. But you also wonder, what is this force really that expands all things? Where does it come from? Is it part of space, or beyond it? Is it energy, or is it something more primal? And just as that question opens wide in your mind, you feel another thought approaching, like a ripple from beyond the horizon. What if this force that stretches space also stretches time? The night stretches longer now, not the night outside your window, but the deep, ancient night of the universe itself, that velvet darkness beyond galaxies, beyond dust, beyond even time's own breath. You drift there gently now, through a sky so vast, so still, it feels like it's waiting for something, but nothing arrives. Only silence grows. Dark energy still hums, not loudly, not harshly, but endlessly, like a soft chord played across a string that never breaks. It pulls at space not with violence, but with gentle persistence. It doesn't scream, doesn't rush. It just is, always stretching, always urging everything to move apart. You look back. Galaxies are gone, not all at once, but slowly faded, not destroyed, not broken, just softened into absence, Like the way a candle dims when the wind forgets to stop. The light didn't die in pain. It just let go. This is the era cosmologists sometimes call the Dark Era, not because it's terrifying, but because it's quiet. The stars have long since stopped burning. Their fuel, those precious hydrogen hearts, have all been used. No new stars are born, no more light is made. The galaxies themselves, like bones of long-forgotten creatures, still drift through the cosmos, but they're cold now, cold and alone, and yet there is peace here, a silence that wraps you like a soft blanket. Everything has slowed. Time itself stretches, yawns, and lies down. You wonder about the very last particles, the final specks of matter, protons and electrons. Will they last forever? Some scientists think even they will decay, like whispers that fade too slowly to hear. Others believe they might persist, quiet embers in the ashes of a once fiery universe. Black holes still remain for now. They are the last great architects of gravity, silent, unseen, but heavy beyond imagining. In the darkness they wait. They do not feed any more, for there is nothing left to eat. But even they are not eternal. Over trillions and trillions of years, they too begin to evaporate, not in flames but through a strange soft leak called Hawking radiation. It is as though space itself sighs them away, atom by atom, until all that once consumed now disappears. You lie here, gently folded into the stillness of this future. There are no clocks here, no days to mark, no suns to rise or fall, only the slow and steady pull of a universe returning to quiet. Some theories suggest this quiet will go on forever, a cold, empty canvas that never ends, never breaks, never warms. Others imagine a rebirth, a big bounce, where everything contracts and begins again. But no one knows for certain, and perhaps that's what makes it beautiful. Because even here in the silence at the end of all things, there is the soft shimmer of mystery, even if there are no eyes to see it, even if the last light has long since faded. You, or something like you, once wondered, once looked up, once asked what came next. And in that asking, you left a ripple, not in space perhaps, not in time, but in meaning. Because the universe does not care, but you do, and that caring shapes everything. Maybe dark energy isn't a force pulling things apart. Maybe it's the space between, the longing, the reaching, the endless unfolding of possibility. Maybe this whole expanding universe is not running from itself, but learning how to become. And as your breath slows, your mind quiets, and your awareness drifts like the last photon in a lonely sea, you feel not an ending, but a soft, unfinished question still glowing somewhere in the dark. What begins after the end? And what dreams might come when even silence has forgotten itself? The universe is quiet now, not dead, just quiet, like a song that's finished playing, its echo still hanging in the air. Space stretches on without edge, like a sheet without seams, pulled so far and wide that nothing remembers where it began. The galaxies are gone. The stars have cooled. The last black hole has sighed itself away into Hawking's breathless night. And still, something lingers. It's not light, not matter, not even gravity. It's you, not your body, that dissolved long ago into the cycles of life and death and transformation. Not your name. That was a whisper spoken on a single planet that now floats as dust in the corners of a forgotten galaxy. What remains is the part that wondered. The part that asked why, the part that looked up at the stars, not to conquer, not to measure, but to feel. That part was never made of atoms. That part was the universe becoming conscious of itself. You were the moment Stardust asked, "What am I?" In a cosmos that doesn't know it exists. You knew. You were small, but so is a seed. And even in the absence of soil, a seed can dream of forests. What happens to a thought when the thinker is gone? What happens to a question when there's no more breath to ask it? Maybe nothing. Or maybe, like the first vibration in the quantum dark, it stirs again, timeless, soft, sacred. Maybe a new universe is born not from fire, but from memory. Not the memory of facts, but the memory of awe. You were not separate from the universe. You were its experiment in wonder, its fleeting chance to feel poetry, its one fragile thread of self-awareness in a fabric of endless silence. And for a time, that thread glowed. So now, as the curtain of space-time folds inward and the play concludes, remember, you were not the observer, you were the story. And even silence remembers stories, not in words, in presence. The gentle vibration that once was you will echo, not through space, not through time, but through whatever mystery lies beyond both. And maybe, just maybe, that echo will bloom again, not as you, but as the next breath of the cosmos, dreaming itself awake once more. Sleep now. The universe is quiet, but you have already spoken.